I thought a road trip would be a good way to clear my head. After a tough year as a freelance photographer, I needed fresh air and inspiration. I packed my bags, jumped in my car, and hit the road, leaving the urban sprawl behind. The scenery changed to winding back roads, dotted with old motels and gas stations. I expected peace but ended up with something much darker. As the sun dipped behind the hills, I drove into a small town. I spotted a nearly empty motel. It looked worn, but the flickering neon sign drew me in. I was tired and just wanted a place to sleep. Inside, the old owner greeted me with an odd smile. When I asked for a room, he warned me to stay out of the woods behind the property. Just local superstition, I thought, laughing it off. I was too exhausted to think much of it, and settled into my room. The furniture was worn, but I didn't care. I drifted to sleep almost immediately. Around midnight, something woke me up. A noise? A twig snapping? I wasn't sure. I pulled the curtains aside and peeked out into the darkness. The trees towered over me, their shapes twisted against the wind. The next day, I hit the road again, but unease followed me. I tried to shake it off. It was just an old motel after all. But on a deserted stretch of road later, I saw something in my rearview mirror. A figure? A glitch of light? I couldn't tell. My heart raced. When I looked back, the road was empty. I stopped for gas at a lonely station. The attendant gave me a strange look when I asked about the woods. "You shouldn't go there," he said, his voice low. I shrugged it off but felt that sick feeling deepen in my stomach. I paid and left. As I drove on, shadows flitted at the edges of my vision. I'd look, and nothing would be there. Just the trees standing still. I felt cold. I hoped it was just fatigue, but dread settled in my gut. Things escalated further. I tried capturing the beauty of the open road with my camera, but the photos looked off. Faces appeared where they shouldn't have. I wrestled with my sanity. Was it isolation playing tricks on me? Finally, I reached a spot where the road curved sharply before a dense thicket of trees. A shadow moved, standing there, staring at me. I raised my camera, but my hands trembled. "Why are you here?" it asked. I turned my head quickly, but nobody was there. Was it my imagination? I didn't know. The question hung in the air like a dark cloud. I don't think I'll ever really know. The sun broke the horizon, casting a faint glow over the trees. My stomach churned as I drove. The road ahead was long and lonely. I tried to refocus my mind, thinking about the landscapes I needed to capture. A part of me yearned for connection with the world outside my car, but I couldn't shake off the feeling of being watched. I pulled off the road when I saw a sign for a scenic overlook. It would be a good chance to stretch my legs, and maybe the view would inspire me. As I parked, I noticed an old wooden sign with faded letters. "Welcome to Hawthorne Ridge." I stepped out, the cool air hitting my face like a slap. It felt refreshing but also sinister. The woods loomed over me, whispering secrets I couldn't hear but could feel. I walked to the edge of the overlook, snapping a few pictures of the breathtaking view. But something felt wrong. I retraced my steps, camera in hand, capturing images of the crooked trees. I thought about how they would look in black and white. Yet, when I looked at the photos, the trees appeared more twisted, almost as if their branches reached out like fingers. I shivered and looked up. A figure stood at the edge of the woods. I squinted but couldn't make out any details. I raised my camera, but the moment I focused, the figure vanished. I blinked hard, confused. I shook my head. This couldn't be happening. I hurried back to my car, heart racing. I tried to convince myself it was just fatigue playing tricks on me. I wanted to drive away, but something compelled me to explore further. I recalled the strange warnings from the motel owner and gas station attendant. With a deep breath, I turned the key and drove toward the tree line. My instincts screamed at me to turn back, but I ignored them. The gravel crunching beneath my tires sounded unnaturally loud, as if announcing my arrival. Dread settled back in my stomach. As I plunged deeper into the woods, I spotted an old path. It was barely visible, overgrown with weeds. Curiosity gnawed at me, urging me to follow it. I parked and stepped out, camera in hand. The path wound like a serpent through thick trees, shadows dancing in the dappled light. As I walked, the air became heavier. I could hear faint murmurs but couldn't make out the words. I paused, listening. The voices faded, replaced by a rhythmic tapping. I moved cautiously, edging toward the noise. Then I saw it. A clearing. In the center stood an old, rotting tree, its bark almost black. And there, nestled in its roots, I found something shiny. When I picked it up, I felt a jolt. It was a locket, tarnished but intricately designed. The moment I opened it, a flood of images flooded my mind. Flashes of faces, places, and chaos. I stumbled back, dropping the locket. As it hit the ground, the murmurs returned louder, almost angry. I turned to run, but suddenly I lost my footing. My heart raced. Panic shot through me as I scrambled back to my feet. The laughter, no, it felt more like a chorus of whispers. Intensified. They echoed around me, blending with the rustling leaves. I had to get out. But was it too late? That's when a shadow loomed behind me. I froze, heart pounding in my chest. The shadow behind me moved, heavy and quick, and I didn't wait to see what it was. I sprinted down the path, branches clawing at my skin. Each snap of a twig echoed like a countdown. I could hear the whispers swell, as if the forest itself were alive and closing in. Panic surged through me, making my legs feel like lead. I berated myself for being so foolish. I should have listened to my instincts. But now, I couldn't focus on anything but escape. I burst onto the gravel road where I'd parked my car, desperation fueling my speed. I turned back to glance at the woods. Nothing. Just trees standing tall and quiet. For a moment I questioned if I had imagined it all. But as I reached my car, I saw it. The locket glinting in the sunlight. I hadn't even thought of picking it up. It was calling to me, an almost magnetic pull. I hesitated, battling a strange urge to return. What did it mean? Why was it so insistent? Against my better judgment, I snatched it from the ground. The moment I touched it, that jolt returned, stronger this time. I squeezed my eyes shut as flashes barreled into my mind. Faces twisted with fear, shouting voices pleading for mercy, and then darkness. I stumbled back, gasping for air. Suddenly, the pain in my chest intensified, and I felt dizzy. I leaned against the car, trying to steady myself. In the distance, I saw the outline of a figure among the trees again, a silhouette with a familiar posture. But I couldn't make out the details. My blood ran cold. I was being hunted. I hurried into my car, fingers fumbling with the keys. As I turned the ignition, the engine sputtered. My heart sank. The whispers returned, louder and more frantic. I had to get out of here. Finally, the engine roared to life, and I slammed the gear into reverse, spine tingling. I didn't look back, but I could feel those eyes on me, heavy and accusing as I sped down the gravel road. Every bump felt like a reminder of what I had just left behind. I reached the main road and applied the brakes long enough to breathe, desperate for clarity. Driving back was an option now, but where to? How far would I need to go to escape whatever that was? As I drove, a strange calm descended, but it was laced with an undercurrent of fear. What had I stumbled upon? Why did the locket seem so significant? It felt wrong, like a piece of a puzzle that wouldn't fit. Then I spotted something in the rearview mirror, something moving fast. I glanced back. My heart dropped. That same shadow was behind me, gaining ground. I pressed down on the accelerator, but it wasn't enough. The figure was right on my tail. My hands gripped the wheel as if that alone could shield me from whatever this was. That's when I realized there was only one road ahead to take, and it led straight to the heart of the valley. But was I strong enough to face whatever awaited me there? The road twisted ahead, narrowing between the tall trees, and my grip on the steering wheel tightened as the shadow persisted. I could hardly think. Part of me wanted to scream, to let everything out. But I knew I needed focus, and crashing wouldn't help anyone. The scenery around me shifted from dense forest to open fields, but the figure remained close, an ever-looming threat in my rear-view mirror. Adrenaline coursed through me, sharpening my senses. The sun was setting, casting long, ominous shadows that danced across the pavement. Every movement felt like an omen. I swerved around a bend and felt my tires slide slightly on the gravel. Focus, I whispered to myself, knowing I couldn't let fear overtake reason. Just ahead was a sign for a roadside diner, the last place I could find some semblance of help, or at least safety. With the shadow so close, I had to make a decision. I swung the car into the diner's lot, heart racing as I skidded to a stop. I glanced back. The figure was gone. I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. Had I lost it? I took a moment, wrestling with disbelief while gathering my thoughts. The diner was a relic from another time, its neon sign buzzing with life. As I stepped out of the car, a chill crept in despite the summer air. I half expected the shadow to manifest in the shadows of the diner's lot. I scanned the area but saw nothing, just old cars and vacant tables on the porch. The bell above the door jingled as I entered. A waitress looked up, her smile faltering as she noticed the wild look in my eyes. "You all right, hun?" I nodded, but it felt like a lie. Just, a little lost. She gestured toward a booth. I slid in, and my hands shook as I picked up the menu. My gut twisted like a knot, and I struggled to focus on anything other than the overwhelming urge to flee. But there was something else tugging at me, an urge to talk about what had happened. The waitress returned, and I ordered coffee. "Just a coffee?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. "Yeah, that's fine." I didn't want to relay my story. Not yet. But as I looked around, something felt wrong. The diner was nearly empty, yet I noticed a group of people huddled together in the far corner, their whispers too muffled to hear. There was a tension in the air that made my skin crawl. Before I could decide whether to approach them or leave, one of them turned, an older man, weathered with deep lines etched into his face. His eyes locked onto mine, and a shiver ran down my spine. He opened his mouth, but no sound came out. Instead, he pointed to something behind me. I turned slowly. My stomach dropped. The figure stood outside the diner, watching. The same menacing shape I had seen before, its features hidden but unmistakably real. "Get away from the window!" the waitress shouted, voice rising above the quiet murmur of the other patrons. Panic gripped me again. I knew I had to act fast. I bolted from the booth, half dragging my chair with me. The door swung wide as I rushed outside, but as I did, everything went dark. I couldn't see, couldn't breathe. All I heard was my heart pounding in my ears, louder than the world around me. Another heartbeat wasn't mine. It felt wrong. I stumbled backward, grappling with the unknown that swallowed me whole. I felt weightless in the dark, as if time had stopped. The heartbeat, steady but foreign, echoed through the void. I struggled to regain my senses, hearing the thin whirring of the diner's neon sign somewhere far away. Panic coursed through me, each beat of my heart pulling me deeper into the abyss. Then, just as suddenly, the weight lifted. My vision blurred back into focus, and the world around me flickered to life. I was back outside the diner, but something had changed. The air was colder, and my breath came out in a ghostly mist. The figure was gone. I squinted into the dim light. My mind raced as I tried to grasp what had just happened. Had I passed out? Was this some kind of trick? I took a cautious step back toward the entrance. "Hey!" A voice broke through my thoughts. It was the waitress, rushing toward me with a look of concern. "Are you all right? You just vanished for a moment?" "Vanished?" I repeated, heart racing. "I don't know what just happened. I saw—" "They can't take you," she interrupted, glancing nervously around the lot. "You shouldn't be out here, not right now." "What do you mean?" I asked, confusion spilling over into fear. "Just get inside. I'll explain," she urged, taking my arm to guide me. I hesitated but felt the pull of urgency. If there was something about the figure, something I needed to know, I'd have to hear it. As we stepped into the diner, the atmosphere felt even more charged. The group in the corner seemed to have grown larger. Their whispers fell to a hush, and all eyes focused on me. "Sit," the old man from before commanded. gesturing to an empty seat next to him. I felt drawn in as I reluctantly complied. "Do you know what's happening?" I asked, searching their faces for answers. The curiosity in their eyes mirrored my own fear. "It's her," the man said, pointing at the waitress. "She can see them. We can too, but we don't know why." "What are you talking about?" I shot back, my voice trembling. "Those shadows. They come for the lost, the scared," the man continued, his tone grave. "They feed on fear. You felt it, didn't you? That sensation, like a weight pressing down?" I nodded, remembering the overwhelming dread that had almost swallowed me. "Stay close to her," he said, nodding toward the waitress. "She knows how to keep them away. When you're out there, you can't run or fight. You have to make peace with it." Before I could respond, the diner's lights flickered. The waitress turned sharply to the door, her expression hardening. "They don't want you here," she whispered urgently. "You have to leave this place, now." Suddenly, the diner felt constricting, trapped by an unseen force. I glanced out the window and saw dark shapes coalescing in the parking lot. They shifted, bending with the low light, moving closer. Fear crashed over me, and I realized just how trapped I had become. I stood up abruptly, heart racing. "What do I do? What do I do?" "That way," the waitress called, pointing toward the back exit. "You have to get to your car. You can't let them in." Without a second thought, I bolted down the narrow aisle, dodging past tables and patrons, hearts in sync with the pounding in my ears. The figures outside pressed closer, merging with the shadows of the night. And then I heard a whisper. Not from behind me, but from within the shadows. "You can't run from us." I wasn't safe yet. The race against the dark had just begun. My feet pounded against the floor as I reached the back exit. The heavy door swung open with a creak, revealing the cold air of the night that felt sharper than before. I stepped outside and the darkness pressed in around me, almost tangible. I lifted my gaze toward the parking lot. My car was just a few spaces away, but the figures, those dark shapes, were closer now, whispering in a language I couldn't understand. I took a deep breath and sprinted. The crunch of gravel beneath my shoes mixed with the low hum of whispers from the shadows. They felt alive, shifting closer as I dashed toward my car. Panic fueled my speed, but it also clouded my mind. I stumbled once, almost losing my balance, and just as I regained my footing, a chill ran down my spine. "Don't look back." The waitress's warning echoed in my mind. I didn't dare to turn, but the weight of their eyes pressed upon me. I could feel them just feet away. I reached my car and yanked open the driver's side door, fumbling with the keys in my trembling hands. Adrenaline surged as I finally managed to start the engine's roar breaking through the oppressive silence. I slammed the door shut, locking myself inside as the shadows surged forward. The headlights flickered on, illuminating the parking lot. That's when I saw it, a figure standing just beyond the reach of the light. It was tall and gaunt, with elongated fingers outstretched as if beckoning me. My heart sank. It looked human, but its eyes were black voids, absorbing all light, all hope. I pressed hard on the gas pedal, the tires screeching as I peeled out of the parking lot. I could barely breathe, fear wrapping around my chest like a noose. I didn't know where to go, I just needed to escape. But as I drove, the road ahead twisted and turned unnaturally, bending like a strange illusion. My surroundings felt surreal, a mix of familiar landmarks warped in shadows. I squinted through my windshield, trying to steady myself, but the world around me remained an unsettling blur. Suddenly, an image flashed in my mind. The waitress's warning about making peace. Was that what I needed to do? I couldn't fight this. I had to understand it. I pushed the thought away. No, I couldn't think that. Fear screamed at me to run, to escape. But where was I escaping to? Out of nowhere, my car jolted and the lights flickered again. The shadows around me thickened, and I felt a calm overtaking my panic, as though something was wrapping around my mind, making me more aware of my surroundings. It was strange, intoxicating. Then came a voice again, clearer this time, breaking through the chaos. "Turn back. You have to turn back." I shook my head, trying to push the words away, but as I glanced in the rearview mirror I could see them. Dark figures merging, gliding alongside my car like they were one with the darkness itself. They beckoned, gesturing toward the diner just like the waitress had. My heart raced, caught between fear and curiosity. I didn't want to return, but what if confronting them held the key to breaking this cycle? I gripped the wheel tighter, my knuckles whitening as I drove toward the diner. I wasn't finished with this. I had to know what was really happening, and just how deep the darkness ran. As I pulled back into the diner's parking lot, a choice loomed before me, and I felt the shadows draw near once more. I parked my car and killed the engine, the sudden silence surrounding me like a shroud. My heart still pounded, but now an unsettling curiosity crept in. The diner stood before me, its neon lights sputtering as if struggling against the encroaching dusk. It felt alive, pulsing with an energy I couldn't quite grasp. As I stepped out, the cold air slapped me, grounding me in reality. I hesitated at the entrance. The whispers were louder now, curling around me. They seemed to linger in the air like smoke, tugging at my thoughts. "Just go inside," I muttered, forcing myself to move forward. Pushing through the door, the familiar smell of coffee and greasy food hit me. The usual chatter of diners filled the place, but it sounded off, as if everyone spoke a language I didn't understand. I scanned the room, searching for the waitress. She had to be here. Then I spotted her sitting in a booth towards the back, her dark eyes meeting mine. She didn't smile. I walked over, my feet feeling heavy, almost reluctant. I came back," I said, surprising myself with the resolve in my voice. She nodded slowly. "You shouldn't have. They're close now." "Who?" My voice came out strained. I could sense them lurking just outside. "What do I have to do?" "Make peace. They're not here to hurt you, but you have to understand." "Understand what?" "Everything in this place is connected. You can't just run from it." I sat down across from her, my mind racing. I thought I had to escape. "The more you run, the deeper you sink into the darkness." Her gaze flicked towards the window. "The shadows feed on fear. They only want to show you what you need to see." I opened my mouth to respond, but the diner fell quiet. All eyes turned toward the front door. A chill rushed through me as I glanced over. The figures from before stood just outside the glass. They were closer now, their elongated shadows stretching across the floor. The waitress sighed. "You have to choose. Look at them. Face what you've been avoiding." I turned back to her, fear bubbling in my stomach. "What if I can't?" The shadows outside swayed, shifting in unison, their intentions unreadable. Each heartbeat felt like a countdown, pushing me to react. I could either confront this or be swallowed whole by whatever darkness tied me to this diner. My gaze darted from the waitress to the figures. They were waiting, silent, their black voids mirroring my own dread. Maybe she was right. Maybe it was time to face them. Then the lights flickered, plunging the diner into semi-darkness. The whispers grew louder, mingling with the hum of the fluorescent lights. "Now." The waitress's voice was calm, almost soothing. "Let it in." Swallowing hard, I stood up, trembling as I approached the door. It felt like walking into a storm. Each step felt heavy and charged with an energy I couldn't fully comprehend. But I had to know why they were here, what they wanted. I reached for the door handle just as a sudden gust of wind blew through the diner, slamming the entrance wide open. The figures outside rushed forward, engulfing me as the world slid into darkness. That's when I realized I wasn't just facing them. I was being pulled into their realm. The moment I stepped through the threshold, the world shifted. It was as if I had crossed from one reality into another. The diner faded into an echo in the distance, replaced by a thick, oppressive fog. The shadows wrapped around me like tendrils, both familiar and terrifying. I stood in a vast expanse, the ground beneath me cold and unyielding. I could barely see, yet I felt the figures surrounding me, their presence palpable. They loomed like ancient sentinels waiting, watching. My heart beat harder as I scanned for any signs of life or clarity. "What do you want?" I called out, my voice echoing into the void. No answer, just silence. But then I saw them shift, moving slightly closer, their shapes blurring and reforming. My heart raced, fear clawing at my insides. What if they were here to drag me down with them? What if I was already too deep? I took a hesitant step forward. "Why am I here?" My voice trembled, but I forced it to be steady. "You have to show me." Slowly, a figure stepped into the fading light. It was a woman, ghostly pale with long, wispy hair that fluttered around her. She looked familiar, but just out of reach. The shadows swirled around her as she opened her mouth, but no sound came. Confusion mingled with my dread. "Who are you?" I needed answers desperately. Suddenly the ground shook. A low rumble vibrated through the air like a warning. The other figures shifted, more restless now, and the woman's form flickered in and out of focus. "Did you bring this upon yourself?" Her voice, when it broke the silence, sounded like a breeze whispering through trees. It carried weight, like a question that dug deep. I don't know," I shouted, my panic rising. "I need to understand." One of the shadows lunged, and I instinctively stepped back. My heart raced. "What do you want from me?" Their faces emerged briefly, distorted, filled with anguish. I gasped, collapsing to my knees. "Tell me. I'm sorry. Just tell me." Then everything stopped. The noise faded and I was left alone with the woman, her expression filled with deep sorrow. "You cannot escape the truth you refuse to accept," she said, her voice cutting through the air. "Face what you fear." As I stared at her, recognition hit me hard. This wasn't just about them or me. This was about everything I had avoided in my life, my past, my choices. But it was easier to hide from it all. A wave of shame washed over me. "I can't do this," I choked out, backing away. "Where will you go?" she asked. "You've already come so far." I clutched my head, wrestling with my thoughts. The shadows began to close in again, their whispers turning into a chorus of discontent. I had to choose. Accept or flee. "Just look inside," she urged, her voice almost tender. "Find the peace you seek." But before I could respond, the ground twisted beneath me. I felt myself losing balance. In an instant, the shadows surged forward, engulfing me once more. The world spiraled away, and I felt nothing but weightlessness. When I opened my eyes again, I was back in the diner. The waitress looked at me, her expression unreadable. "What did you see?" she asked, tilting her head ever so slightly. I don't know." It was a lie. I felt the echoes of my past swarming around my thoughts. Then something cold brushed against my arm. My blood ran cold. I turned, and to my horror, another figure stood at my side, its eyes voids of darkness, grinning. I had a feeling things were about to get much worse. I was frozen, the figure next to me a nightmare made flesh. Its grin widened, revealing teeth that glinted like sharp knives. I quickly turned my head away and focused on the waitress, desperate for some encouragement. "Can you see it too?" I whispered, not daring to look back. She didn't answer. Instead, she wiped the counter with a rag, her movements slow and methodical. It was as if she didn't even register what was happening to me. Panic surged through my veins again. "Please, I need you to help me," I pleaded, glancing over my shoulder. The figure was still there, shifting closer, the stench of decay wafting toward me. "Come," it whispered, its voice raspy and haunting. "I've been waiting." My stomach churned. "Get away from me," I shouted, startling the other customers. Their faces were blank, hovering in the periphery, oblivious to my terror. "Why are you ignoring me?" the figure hissed, stepping even closer. I felt the urge to run, to escape the diner entirely, but the foggy memory of the shadowy realm clung to me. What had I seen? What did I need to face? I took a breath, squaring my shoulders. "I'm not afraid of you," I declared, though my voice trembled. The figure paused, tilting its head like it was amused. "Is this the best you can do?" it taunted, the grin never fading. I clenched my fists. I couldn't let it win. The waitress finally turned her gaze towards me, her eyes suddenly alive with concern. "You need to get out of here," she urged, breaking the eerie silence. "It's not safe." Her words felt heavy, weighted with meaning. "What do you mean?" I asked, feeling the foreboding energy in the diner grow thicker. "The truth, you see. It's not just a moment. It's a portal," she said, glancing at the figure that still lingered at my side. "They feed on fear. Don't let them take you." With those words, clarity surged inside me. I thought of the woman in the fog, her haunting question echoing in my mind. I remembered the truth I needed to face. "I know what I have to do," I said, trying to sound more confident than I felt. I looked into the figure's hollow eyes. "You don't scare me. I am more than my past." The figure recoiled, its grin faltering as my resolve appeared to shock it. I felt the air shift. The diner's oppressive atmosphere lightened. But it was not over yet. More shadows filled the corners of my vision. The waitress stepped back, eyes wide. "You need to hurry," she warned. "There's only so much time before it consumes you." And then I saw it, my reflection in the diner's window. The grinning figure stood behind me, but it wasn't as it had seemed before. I saw wisps of my past, mistakes, failures, moments I had run from. I felt the truth rising within me, ready to confront it all. Before I could act, the diner doors burst open. A powerful gust of wind swept inside, rattling everything. The lights flickered ominously, and I felt a presence behind me, overwhelming and furious. "What have you done?" the figure hissed, anger spilling from its words. I didn't have to understand everything right now. I just knew I had to escape this place before I became part of its shadows. I turned and bolted, racing out the doors into the swirling mist outside. I had a new threat now, and I could hear it close behind me. The cold air wrapped around me like a vice as I burst out of the diner, shadows swirling at my heels. I sprinted towards my car, telling myself I had to reach it, but the grip of fear tightened. The whispers from the darkness clawed at my mind, each syllable a reminder of what I had faced and had yet to confront. I fumbled with the keys, dropping them in my panic. "Don't look back," I whispered under my breath. As I bent to retrieve them, I felt a chill settle over me, a presence looming just beyond my consciousness. I gasped, snatched the keys, and yanked the car door open, flinging myself into the driver's seat. I slammed the door shut, the sound echoing like a gunshot in the thick night air. The engine roared to life, and my vision blurred as I gunned it into reverse, barely glancing at the diner before tearing away. The gravel crunched beneath the tires, and I didn't look back. The headlights seemed to pierce through the darkness, revealing nothing but trees and shadows. As I sped down the road, I felt the weight of something following, like a dark storm chasing me. It was surreal. I was driving through a reality that felt wrong. The trees on either side of the road loomed and twisted, their shapes grotesque against the night sky. I saw vague figures darting between trunks, fleeting glimpses that made my heart race. "Focus," I told myself, focusing on the road ahead. I felt the shadows at my back pulsating with a life of their own. In my mind, the memories of what I had faced at the diner twisted, asking me to confront them. But I refused to listen. My grip tightened around the steering wheel, knuckles white. Just as the road widened, I caught sight of something flickering in my rearview mirror, a shadow surging forward, gaining on me. My breath hitched as panic surged through my veins. I slammed on the accelerator, praying it would be enough to outrun whatever pursued me. But it was as if time slowed. The shadow at my back moved faster, gaining ground, and the landscape around me blurred into an indistinct mass. Frantic, I swerved off the main road toward an abandoned stretch of highway, the crunching gravel replaced by cracked asphalt under the tires. The shadows stretched behind me, and I could hear their whispers now, a cacophony of voices, angry yet desperate. "You will never leave," they seemed to chant. "No," I shouted at them, my voice breaking the tension in the air, and for an instant the shadows hesitated. It was as if I had planted a seed of doubt within them, and I used that moment to push harder on the gas. The landscape outside seemed to shift and bend, as if the road itself wasn't quite part of our reality. Then, before I could register what was happening, I emerged into a clearing, my headlights illuminating a large tree. Its gnarled branches looked like tortured hands reaching for the sky. I slammed the brakes, skidding to a stop. Tangled roots sprawled from the base of the tree, creating an eerie threshold. I could feel something pressing against me, urging me to step outside the car, to confront whatever I had run from. In that instant, I understood. This tree was a place of power, a direct connection to whatever darkness had been plaguing me. In that haze of panic, I hesitated, torn between the instinct to flee and the growing realization that I had to face my fears. The shadows gathered closer to the edges of the trees, writhing in frustration. "Come on," I murmured, steadying my breath despite the terror tightening in my chest. "You're not stronger than me." I steeled myself and took that first trembling step out of the car. As I moved, shadows darted closer, their whispers transforming into a sorrowful song. I took a deep breath, allowing the memories, my regrets, the choices I had made, to wash over me. They surged like an overwhelming tide, but this time I faced them. I was not here to flee. I was here to reclaim myself. The shimmering outlines of the silhouettes shifted, and one stepped forward, revealing the ghostly shape of the woman from the fog. Her face was a mirror of the pain I felt, but also of the resolve it took to confront it. In that shared moment, it felt like the weight of my past hung between us, an unbroken cycle of fears and mistakes, yearning for understanding. "You don't have to be afraid," I whispered, my voice steadier, emboldened. The shadows hesitated, and for the briefest of moments the darkness flickered. Would they accept my resolve or devour it whole? I stood firm, aware that escape was still an option, but the deeper truth waited for me. The whispers quieted, and for the first time, a sense of calm enveloped me. I had crossed a threshold, but would it be enough to sever the ties binding me to this mystery? And just like that, the shadows dispersed, their presence still palpable yet less suffocating. I looked around, searching for clarity, but just as I was beginning to breathe easier, I realized there were no answers here, only questions lingering in the edges of the night, swirling in the darkness. As I turned back toward my car, I could still feel their eyes on me, the remaining shadows shifting in the corners, a reminder that perhaps some mysteries are never meant to be solved. With one last deep breath, I climbed back into my car, knowing the road ahead would still be long and uncertain. I pulled away, leaving the shadows and the questions behind, but not entirely. They would always be a part of who I was now. As I drove away, my mind spun with thoughts of what lay ahead, but this time fear had shifted to curiosity. Would these questions follow me? Would I ever return? The road stretched out before me, and in the fading light I understood there would always be shadows, some that whispered of truths, others that merely watched, waiting to be faced when the time was right.